I got sick in November of '08 and was admitted into the hospital and was there for almost 7 months. I remember waking up from time to time and looking at my legs, and they were getting darker and darker and darker, and I was black. My limbs were dead and attached to me, and my legs below the knee were amputated, and so were my fingers. The recovery, immediately after the amputations, it was probably the worst times of my life. I really didn't know meningitis could lead up to what I went through. I'm just lucky that I survived. Not everyone is as lucky as me. Get vaccinated.
I had never heard of meningococcal meningitis before Erin got it. We didn't know there was a vaccine. My daughter didn't even have a fighting chance because we knew nothing about it. She had been home the week before on spring break, went back to school on Sunday, had dinner with her friends on Monday evening, and started feeling a little sick. She complained of numbness in her arms, stiff neck, and her friends took her to the hospital about 2:30. By 5:15, she was dead. We didn't even get there in time because we were over 3 hours away. What happened to my daughter shouldn't happen to another child. Get vaccinated.
In August of 1999, I attended a summer camp up in western Massachusetts. After going on a 30-mile hike on the Appalachian Trail over 3 days, I started feeling ill at dinner. Over the next 16 hours, the flu got worse and purple blotches started to appear on my abdomen. Paramedics were called and I was rushed to the hospital. My liver failed, my organs failed, I had a collapsed lung. I was given about a 10% chance of survival, and I was diagnosed with meningococcal meningitis. About a week and a half after contracting this disease, I was transferred to a hospital in New York City, where I had my legs amputated at the knee and my hands amputated at the forearm. 2 months after contracting this terrible disease, I was absolutely shocked to find out that there was a vaccine available that could have prevented all of this from happening. Bacterial meningitis is preventable. Get vaccinated.
On January 27th in 2001, our daughter, Adrian, complained about a headache and her legs hurting her. So she went to bed. When she woke up the next morning, she had a high fever. And at that time, I told Dwight that we're going to the emergency room.
The biggest concern was her blood pressure was dropping, and she had this severe pain in her legs. She coded for the first time. Her heart stopped. They had to start breathing for her. And they worked on Adrian for probably over an hour, hour and a half, and finally had to declare her dead. The most horrible thing in the world is to survive your child, and I don't want anybody to ever have to go through that.
What happened to our daughter shouldn't happen to anyone. Get vaccinated.
I was one of those patients who was misdiagnosed because they thought, oh, regular fever, and it's just, he'll stabilize, but I didn't. I was in a coma for 12 days, and they had to amputate all 10 fingers and below the knee. My dad was the first one that told me, you have bacterial meningitis, and my mom actually walked in and couldn't say anything. She just nodded her head. Get vaccinated.
I lost my 10-year-old son, Braden, to meningococcemia on January 8th, 2010. My son was a perfectly healthy, happy, and vivacious 10-year-old child. On Friday morning, January 8th, he woke up at 5 a.m. complaining of a headache. He began vomiting. I noticed he had a rash beginning on his ear. I didn't know what it was. The emergency room doctor was well aware that he had meningitis and started treating him for that. He passed away at only 17 hours from the first onset of his symptoms. My son, had he been vaccinated, would be alive today.
When I first went to get my pre-physical exam for college, I did everything that was on that list. Unfortunately, my family physician did not have the meningitis vaccine in stock at the time, but he told me it's smart once you get up to school to get this vaccine. That was the farthest thing from my mind to get vaccinated for meningitis. I never missed a day in high school, and all of a sudden I get bacterial meningitis, and my world's turned upside down. It was a Friday night, and I felt like I had the flu, high fever, vomiting. The next morning I woke up and I knew something was wrong. I could barely sit up out of bed. When I got to the hospital, the doctor knew something else was going on. I was put into a drug-induced coma, and that night I was given my last rites because they didn't think I was going to make it through the night. I was in that coma for 6 weeks, and when I woke up, I had amputations to pretty much all my fingers on both my hands and both my legs below the knees. Because I didn't educate myself 10 years ago, I'm paying the consequences today. Get vaccinated.
To me, it's like I'm still in a bad dream and I'm waiting for someone to wake me up. I received a phone call from my son Robert. The first thing is, Mom, don't panic. I've been to the ER and they're discharging me. They're telling me I have a pulled muscle. As the day progressed, later on that afternoon, he returned to the emergency room, and that's where our nightmare began. When the doctor came out to let us know that his heart had stopped and to explain to us that they thought he had meningitis, our world fell apart. And then when we were allowed to go in, I could not believe that he was so unrecognizable. 21 hours from when Robert called us that morning, he died. It was such a shock to us because I had never heard of meningococcal disease and had no idea that a disease could take a very healthy, vibrant, young human being and bring him down within hours. What was most shocking to have found a week after he died was that this disease is potentially preventable with a vaccination. Please get vaccinated.
Through the NMA, I am trying to alert other parents to this deadly disease.
We've taken on the work with the National Meningitis Association so that families never have to suffer like we've had to suffer.
What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.